This was a weird little accident. This level actually. There's on the on Thomas on the right there. As you move up, you're moving through trigger boxes. If you don't make games, trigger boxes are basically spaces you jump into or move into, and they cause something in the game to happen. So as you move up as Thomas, you're hitting these trigger boxes which cause the walls to come in. But as a really weird coincidence, I got one of the timings wrong. So that as you moved up, there's a certain point where it looks like you can jump somewhere. You jump to it, and the wall flies out and hits you in the face. And it's kind of a funny moment. And I did it, and I thought it was funny, and it felt kind of organic. And I took it to when I started showing the game to people. It happened to everyone. It's a weird thing that it seems to catch everyone out, even though there's nothing forcing you into it. 90% of the time, people get hit in the face, and most of the time they laugh. So I left it in, and I'm really happy with it. Actually, it's one of those nice little coincidences that worked out really well. Steps. Everyone loved the steps. They didn't actually, and it's probably my biggest design regret in the game is steps. Basically, are kind of obstacles that you have to jump over by kind of piling up a few characters in order to get through. That's fine. The problem with steps is that you have to do that repeatedly. That you have to essentially solve the same puzzle over and over again in a sequence, and there's just 2 or 3 too many times I do that in the whole game, and it's frustrating to players. It sucks. I went through and I removed quite a few of them. So if you're annoyed, you would have been more annoyed if I'd left it how it was. It's a shame. I think there's some which are more acceptable than others. But yeah, if that's the worst bit of design in the game, I'm pretty happy though. So yeah, lesson learned. This level's a great example of how useful playtesting is. This map was always very similar to this, but there was one major kind of design difference, was that the stepping stones at the bottom of the screen had a wall, had no wall below them, so they were floating over water, which meant that you could fail about 8 or 9 times here, causing you to get very frustrated and angry. And it wasn't a soft fail where your character fell through and you got back up and carried on. It was a cruel, harsh fail that reset the level. And my playtesters hated it. So this is a great example of the kind of thing that to me was invisible, because I understood how the characters moved and I was making them and playing them all the time. To me, it was a really easy sequence of stepping stones that you can get through first time every time. But once I put it in front of playtesters, I got emails from people saying it was taking them like 45 minutes to get through this level because of that problem. So just sticking a wall underneath. I kept the water because it looked nice, but the sticking a wall underneath really kind of helped and just smoothed people through. People are still working out the game at this stage, and I don't want to kick them too much in the face. I've already hit them in the face with a wall. Danny I should have mentioned Danny a little bit sooner. He just does so much. It's a long story that I've told lots of places, but basically I wrote the story for him. I was trying to find a voice that would suit the game, and I was a big fan of his writing and his kind of audiobooks and radio stuff and all the things he does. And I wrote the part kind of with his voice in mind. And then I tried to find people who could do it, and no one could do it. And then I got drunk and emailed him, and he said yes, which was a bit of a shock. So I'm really chuffed. He did an awesome job. He's been really cool with the game. He's talked about it, he's been lovely, and he's just a really nice chap. He's also really fast. I'm recording this after recording some other stuff with Danny, and he's amazingly quick at what he does. I'm doing a much worse job, and the people in the booth are getting bored, I imagine, at this point. John's my favourite character. Well, I'm going to say that a few times because I've got quite a few favourite characters, but John I really in particular like. He's insecure in a weird way. I'm not entirely sure why he is, but he is. And that leads him to kind of be dishonest and narcissistic, which I think a large number of creative people will associate with. I know I do. And he's so he's a really interesting character. I like the way he grows. I like that his journey as he goes on, and I like the way that his power of kind of basically being the highest jumper is usurped later on by Sarah, and what that does to his view on his situation. So he's a very cool character. This is another level actually from the original Flash game, which obviously I tweaked and kind of brought across. I really liked the idea of confined spaces as applied to this game, because with large spaces, having multiple characters with different abilities kind of hopefully feels kind of empowering, feels like you can do anything and get anywhere. Putting them into a confined space kind of becomes an interesting kind of jumble. They get in each other's way, they trip over each other. There's a nice little bit of narration here that kind of highlights that stuff. But it was just something really cool to play with. The other thing is, and I do this all over the place in this game, is I really love adding a character who has a specific ability and then not letting you use it for a little while. But specifically because I just think it builds anticipation. You know John can jump really high. You've seen that, and to then put him in a space where you can't play with that button is just kind of hopefully kind of intriguing and frustrating, and you want to pull through, and you're kind of with John in this level. John is angered by his situation, he just wants to be free. So hopefully kind of the player aligns at that point with John. This level exists solely to allow the player to feel their way into John. This is a chance for you to basically make him jump properly for the first time, and hopefully because of the constraints in the last level, that feels awesome. And I actually use the word awesome in the narration just to push you in case that's not how you're feeling. You should, it's a very good game. And then so you've now got access to this awesome jump, and you can do what you feel. This is getting very self-deprecating, but I think this is the weakest level in the game. I came very, very close to cutting it. this is where the staircase repetition kind of becomes, well, boring. I did do a lot. I shifted things around, kind of varied the step sizes and gaps, and to add variety. But it's a lot better than it was. But it was not. It's the one that when I'm watching Let's Plays, and I'll talk a bit more about Let's Plays in a bit. But the way it's kind of the one that I fast forward through on the Let's Plays because I find it very, very slow. I don't know, that might just be over familiarity, but I don't like this level. Have fun with it though, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is a long level. A lot of stairs, isn't it? Is a long level.
This is the last. This is actually the last level of the demo. So it's kind of important for that reason. But the kind of the big design lesson here, and you'll notice I guess like the lessons are slowing down at this point. But the big lesson here is that there's a temporary portal success. So previously all the portals have sat on a static ground. So you queue someone up, you queue someone up, you queue someone up. With this one, you have to finish this level by having Thomas falling through that portal. And it's hopefully it's kind of safe. If you miss your timing or you get him through early, you can always catch back up with yourself. So it doesn't punish you if you don't get it immediately. But it's something I really want to do later on, and there's quite a few places where I play with this idea. So yeah, it's that basically. It's a way of introducing that, and hopefully kind of hints at the possibilities if you're playing the demo of kind of where the game can continue on from there.
I'm gonna wake up to you. You're bad. That doesn't sound like me.
Claire is all about the setup. To buy the fact that she actually thinks that swimming is a superpower, you kind of have to set her up before that as feeling weak. And Claire's not weak. She's not a weak character. She's not rubbish at jumping either. That's something she says. She's on a par with a lot of the other characters. But that insecurity hopefully kind of warms you to her, and you're with her at the point where she realises she has that superpower. You feel excited because you want a nice thing to happen to that character who you kind of had not pity, but kind of a sensitivity towards. What's really interesting with Claire is in a lot of the reviews and the kind of the chatter about the game that happens online, people say that Claire is fat and that she's insecure about being fat. Which is really odd, because I never thought of Claire as fat. She's big because she has to carry characters later. That's the kind of a design concern. And at no point does the script mention her weight or even that she has a physical insecurity. And that's kind of weird and odd, but it's also absolutely awesome, because if players are kind of coming to the game and placing these meanings on it without kind of me telling them, that's cool. It's really interesting. Whenever fan art's done, she's the big boned character, which is fascinating, and I like that players have kind of built their own little story on top of her. So exactly the same way as with John, I kind of really enjoyed the idea of introducing a swimming character and then having a level that you couldn't swim in. So there's that, and just me being cheeky again, basically. But the big lesson here is the idea of getting Claire to carry another character. So there's one point right at the start of the level you have to get John to carry Claire. You have to. There's no way of completing the level without doing it, which was cool, and kind of introduces that idea of carrying someone along. And then you've got an optional, you can do it over the stepping stones straight after, with Claire underneath and John on top. Surprisingly, a lot of players don't do that. I don't know if they don't see it or they don't make that leap yet. But hopefully that idea has been implanted, because that's very useful later on. And I said it was useful later on. It's useful immediately after, which is this level, which is the payoff where you carry characters back and forth. I also really like the whole the fox chicken grain logic puzzle, and it's kind of Thomas's little nod to that. It's just something that people hopefully kind of will work out and kind of start to see what Claire can do and start planning out with that ability in mind in later puzzles.
Very well thought out. Yeah. Good thing.
This is probably the most showy level. This is epic. This is the one that always goes in the trailer. I stole Rain from the method for doing Rain from Quick Fingers, who's an awesome Unity dude who I'm now fortunate enough to work with. And it's cool. It's a big epic moment. This is much like those falling platforms earlier on. This is kind of one of those big semi-scripted sequences because the pace is defined by the water. So therefore, I know that if a player is surviving, they are playing through at a certain speed. And it's cool. It also builds on the idea of carrying from earlier, but this time under pressure, so you have to move quicker and you haven't got time to think. And if you try and get Thomas off of Claire, you're going to run into problems very quickly. So there's that as well. So it's hopefully kind of a nice way of solidifying all the learning the player's done about Claire up to this point. Steps. I'm so sorry. On the upside, two things. One, I changed the shape of the steps, which I feel kind of massively improves them. And two, I then sarcastically make a joke about steps in the script. So you can laugh with me at my lack of design ideas up to this point.
This one is different. Ish. But gosh dang.
This is one of my favourite levels. What's nice about this level is it breaks the thinking and learning you've done up to this point. So up to this point, I've been teaching you that Claire is for carrying other characters. If I'd not done that, this level would be a lot easier. It's because you've been told to carry characters for every level up to this point. Your automatic reaction to a body of water is to jump Claire in and pile up all your characters, and that's not the solution. I love the fact that this puzzle kind of only exists in the head of the player. And it's great watching, Let's Plays and when I was doing playtesting and taking it to events and stuff, that you actually see people performing the action you taught them to do of getting the characters on top of Claire, and then realising that's not the solution, that the solution is much simpler than they think. And there's only a few places in the game I managed to pull that off, but I'm really, really happy with this one. Music. David came in, he came in pretty early. Basically, the original Flash game had no music, and one of the biggest criticisms was that there was no music, there were no sound effects either. So I had to get someone, and I kind of fortunately found David through a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, and he did a cool little demo, which is now actually over the end credits, and he was awesome. I got him in. He wrote this amazing piece of music for each kind of chapter of the game. Basically, the way we worked is I would send him kind of the emotional script for the game of how the character's feeling, what's the setup here, and he'd work from that and kind of build a piece of music. About halfway through development, I made his life a lot harder because I decided I wanted a randomized procedural system. So you'll never hear the game too obviously loop. They're basically little sequences of music that kind of get piled up in interesting ways. And he was really good. He was really good with that. He split up what he'd already made and made it work, and then every track from that point on used that system really, really well. So he was really adaptive, and he's awesome. And he's like 14. Well, he's not 14, but he's very young, and it frustrates me how talented he is. I had a really good time working with him. So thank you, David.
Cool.
So this is an attempt to do a puzzle with kind of multiple solutions. This again was one of the very early levels I made. It was more of a kind of a test level originally, just to kind of check that all the characters were interacting correctly and the platforms were working the way I wanted them to. And it's cool because everyone has a different way of doing it. There's lots of ways of optimally doing it, but then there's lots of ways of also doing it in kind of cool show-off ways, which is nice. It's a good chance actually to talk about the backgrounds. So the backgrounds I was going to do kind of, much like the shadows, I was kind of going to do specific bespoke level backgrounds, and it was working all right. They didn't look great, mainly because I just wasn't spending enough time on them. This is a 100 level game, and it just wasn't working. So in the end, I did kind of a procedural system. So they're freeze-framed particle effects. So basically, I draw them all off from a batch of images, place them at different parallax depths, and just go with it. So hopefully that kind of gives everything a nice texture, and kind of I think it brings all the levels together, and it means that every time you play a level it looks a bit different, which is fun.
Oh shoot. Someone killed that. Let's see.
This is where I introduced spikes. I needed a hazard. I needed two things. I needed a hazard that Claire couldn't get past, so not water, basically, something that she could get hurt by. And I also needed a hazard I could put on ceilings. I did actually try, because it's all in a virtual world. I was like, oh well, it's fine. I'll have upside down water, and it looked rubbish, as I'm sure you'd expect. So the spikes got added. I introduced them specifically just with Claire, just so you can, as a player, learn that Claire is actually going to be damaged by them, and it kind of just changes the relationship a little bit between Claire and the environment, and hopefully in a safe way. This level's pretty straightforward. I've got two versions of the commentary for this level. The first version is that, from a narrative perspective, I needed to establish that there was an intelligence to the system you're in, that there were negative forces, and I needed to disrupt the flow of play in order to make you aware that that was there. So a glitch kind of made a lot of sense, and it's kind of something that the Matrix does deja vu quite a bit to kind of show you that something's been changed, and that was cool. The other version, and the more honest version, was that I had a very near deadline in order to take the game to a festival, and I had to have another level. I don't know why I'd set myself an actual kind of level count. No one was judging me or questioning me. 29 levels would have been just as good as 30 levels, but I did, and this was a nice way of reusing that map. Once I'd made it, I kind of assumed I'd always remove it, but once I'd made it, I actually thought it was quite cool, and there's a few little tweaks. So the moving platform moves a little bit faster, and obviously Thomas is there. So I kind of liked actually reusing the same space with different characters as kind of a way of twisting a puzzle. I didn't want to do it too many times in the game, because I figured, people would just feel I was being a bit cheeky and not making enough content. But it was a nice thing to just do once, and to just see how that mixed things up.
Oops. All right. One more.
It's only as we record these that I'm realising quite
No,
how
that's
much
good.
I played the new character, but you can't use them properly.